We are back with Maryland Governor Wes Moore on a very busy news night. There's so much I wanted to ask you about, and you gave that amazing speech this morning in Maryland. The government shut down, but yesterday also, Trump and Hegseth gave what I thought was a bizarre, politicized event. They did a bizarre and politicized event in front of 4, 3, 2, 1-star members of the U.S. military. You were a veteran yourself. And there are a couple things that struck me. They talked about fighting a war from within. They talked about these silly rules of engagement. When you're in the military, and you know this better than I do, but I've worked with a member of they serve the commander in chief. They report to him. They do what he orders. And I just wonder if we're in just a different moment where there should be some questioning. Or how do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday was really disheartening. I received a text from a person who I served with before, and he said to me, he said, you know, it's normal to disagree with the commander-in-chief. He said, but I don't know if it's normal to be embarrassed by him. Mm-hmm. And he said, and I'm embarrassed. You know, and when we take the oath, we take the oath that we are going to follow the Constitution of the United States of America, and we will follow the lawful orders of the commander-in-chief. It's the same thing, and it's the same very humble responsibility that I take as the commander-in-chief of the Maryland National Guard. That I know that the Maryland National Guard and the Maryland Air Guard, they move on the command of the commander-in-chief, that I'm giving them lawful orders. But I also think there's a confidence amongst the members of the Maryland National Guard and the Maryland Air Guard is that I would only ever give lawful orders. And that's the struggle that I think for a lot of members of the military, they're figuring right now. We will follow the commands of our commander-in-chief. That's the oath that it took. When they're lawful. And I think there's a lot of people who right now, when they heard the words from the commander-in-chief yesterday about talking about using American cities as training grounds, they're not receiving lawful orders. In fact, they're receiving orders that are in direct violation of the U.S. Constitution and of U.S. law. And so this is what is making this moment so tricky. It's not just the fact that, you know, hearing Pete Hegseth, ridicule people about merit is really rich when he is the most unqualified Secretary of Defense that this country's ever seen. But it's past that. It's that we are hearing from our commander-in-chief about instructions that he is giving to the members of our military that are not just nonsensical, they're unlawful. And that puts the members of our military in a really complicated situation.
What can they do?
They don't have to follow them. We have to follow lawful orders. We follow the instructions of our commander-in-chief. We follow the Constitution of the United States of America. But I cannot stress enough that word lawful matters. And in fact, we are told you do not have to follow unlawful orders. And so I think this becomes a really challenging moment for the members of our military when you usually have the ability to trust that the orders that you are getting are lawful. I think if we have seen anything from the precedent of this Trump administration, that is not always a guarantee nor a prerequisite for the decisions and the orders that they're given.
I see the guns and badges in this room. You are unleashed. The handcuffs that you're carrying, they're not on you anymore. They're on the criminals. And whatever you need to get it done, we're going to get it done. We are about to provide you with a level of support you cannot even imagine. This isn't just a task force. This is a all-of-government unlimited support operation. ATF, DEA, FBI, ICE, Department of War, every resource we have. And they're not going to be sitting behind a desk at a keyboard. We are sending in real cops with guns and badges to go out with you on the street every single night making arrests.
That was White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller speaking to law enforcement in Memphis, Tennessee yesterday, telling them they can do whatever they need to do to fight crime there. Attorney General Pam Bondi and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth were also there just days after a task force ordered by President Trump started operating in the city. The Memphis police chief said on Tuesday that National Guard troops are expected to arrive in the city within the next 2 weeks. I want to bring in now Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. Congressman, I want to start with just getting your reaction to what you just heard there and the way that the Trump administration is fighting crime in American cities by sending in National Guard troops.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Allie. It's unacceptable. Law and order is vital, and mayors, governors should do their utmost to defend against not just violent crime, but also quality of life violations like shoplifting or open air drug use. I'm not contesting that. What I am contesting is the use of the United States military for domestic law enforcement, which cuts against a 500-year tradition that actually predates the United States. I represent Greater Boston. We're coming up on our 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. I know that Americans did not want to quarter the King's troops, and they are not going to want to quarter the president's troops.
I know the last time that you were on, we were talking about what was happening at that point in Los Angeles. You were pushing for reforms to posse comitatus, which is just basically the way that the federal government is able to send National Guard troops in if the governor or local officials are objecting. Ultimately, when you see the way that the president is not just continuing to do this, but then also saying to top military officials just the other day that American cities are a training ground for the military. You served in the Marines. I mean, what does this say about the body that you were once a part of?
United States Marines are trained that we are no better friend and no worse enemy. The challenge is the commander-in-chief thinks that Russia is the friend and Los Angeles is the enemy. All of the speeches that the Secretary of Defense wants to give, all of the chest thumping that Stephen Miller wants to do, doesn't matter if the commander-in-chief is literally rolling out a red carpet for Vladimir Putin right before the Russian autocrat turns around and invades NATO's airspace, and simultaneously deploying Marines to Los Angeles in a violation of posse comitatus. Until Donald Trump actually respects the law and understands law and order, none of the chest thumping matters.
One of the things I enjoy talking to governors is that you just call things out because you've been in a position, as other governors had, to kind of oversee things and make decisions. I wanted to play something for you that Governor J.B. Pritzker said today. He talked a little bit about sending troops into cities, something that he's grappling with, as you have with the city of Chicago. Let's play that and we talk about it.
Into cities thinking that that's some sort of proving ground for war, or that indeed there's some sort of internal war going on in the United States is just, frankly, inane. And I'm concerned for his health. There is something genuinely wrong with this man, and the 25th Amendment ought to be invoked.
Do you agree with him?
I love JV. And listen, one thing that I do know is there's this chicken hawk behavior. There is this fascination and obsession with the United States military. And maybe it's because he's never served himself. Mm-hmm. Maybe because he's never worn the uniform. Trump, sorry. Not JB, but Trump. Yeah. Maybe because he's never worn the uniform. But there is this fascination that he has about that the answer to everything is deploy the United States military like he's a child.
Like playing Battleship.
Correct. Like this is a childish game, without realizing that the people that he's talking about, these are real people. These are citizen soldiers. These are people who have raised their hand to put on the uniform. These are people who are willing to leave their families and give their life if necessary. People who took the same oath that I took. People who, and as someone who has worn the uniform, who has said goodbye to my family, and who has said goodbye to my family without the assurance that I would ever be able to reunite with them again, but I love this country enough and that I was willing to do it. Those are the men and women that we're talking about. And so when the president of the United States is so willy-nilly willing to talk about, I'll deploy them here and deploy them there, as if this is a Wall Street trade, it is deeply disrespectful to the members of our military, deeply disrespectful to their families, and frankly, very much beneath the office that he holds.
Before I let you go, you're not ready to invoke the 25th Amendment. That's okay. But do you think, just back to the shutdown very quickly, do you think Trump knows how to end this shutdown?
No, because I think this is not some type of deviation. It's a continuation. Donald Trump has been shutting down the federal government in Maryland since he's been in office. Donald Trump has now fired over 15,000 federal workers in the state of Maryland. Donald Trump has denied grants and research dollars to our research institutions. Donald Trump has started put tariffs that started trade wars that has now risen the price on everything. Energy prices in the state of Maryland have jumped by 20% since Donald Trump has been the president of the United States. It's not that I don't think he knows how to end the federal government shutdown. I don't think he has an interest in ending the federal government shutdown.
What's happening here looks simple, yet it's being spun to seem complicated. The truth is clear, though. Donald Trump and Republican leadership are steering America straight into a shutdown, and then trying to blame everyone else for the crash. They control the White House, the Senate, and the House. That means that they also hold all the responsibility. Yet instead of negotiating months in advance, they waited until the last possible moment, refused to meet with Democrats, and now they want to frame this chaos as somebody else's fault. Think about it. Back in 2013, Trump himself said that if the government shuts down, it represents a failure of the president to bring people together. Fast forward to today, and suddenly he acts as though that logic no longer applies to him. What he shows is just huge hypocrisy, not leadership. And the consequences reach far beyond Washington games. A shutdown means real Americans get hurt. Families lose access to healthcare. Veterans face delays in service, workers get furloughed, and kids lose nutrition programs. Meanwhile, billionaires keep their tax breaks. Families again lose, while the billionaires win. Trump keeps bragging about tariffs, claiming they raised trillions of dollars. In reality, they pulled in only about $150 billion more than before, and that's because tariffs are nothing more than a hidden sales tax on Americans. They raise the cost of groceries, electricity, and everyday goods. Families absorb the pain, while Trump spins it as some grand win. The result is working people footing the bill for his bad math and empty chest thumping. Even more alarming, Trump is trying to bend the Constitution to his will. The power of the purse belongs to Congress, period. The Supreme Court already ruled against an executive line item veto, yet his administration is searching for backdoor ways to freeze or impound funds, edging towards that authoritarian takeover of congressional power. That course sets a really dangerous precedent. Once you allow a president to decide unilaterally what laws to follow and what funding to release, checks and balances vanish. What remains is one man calling the shots. The cruelty is also deliberate here. Gutting Medicaid and healthcare subsidies forces millions off coverage, closes hospitals, and makes children and seniors pay the price. Instead of admitting that, though, Trump's team floods the zone with rage bait, racist videos, distractions, and culture war noise, hoping people won't notice their pocketbooks shrinking and their healthcare disappearing. That amounts to manipulation in its rawest form. At the end of the day, the core issue doesn't revolve around budget math or procedure. It revolves around Trump putting his ego and billionaire donors above everyday Americans. He plays chicken with the economy, gambles with people's lives, and dares anyone to stop him. The behavior here amounts to sabotage, or even worse, dressed up as politics. And if this gets normalized, then shutdowns, broken systems, and executive overreach will become the standard. America deserves better than a president who treats power as a personal toy, while the rest of the country pays the price.